music matters. Yes, I got it. So why does Black music matter? We want to start right at the beginning with why does it matter? Because we use the word Black Lives Matter, we use the words Black educators matter, we see all kinds of t-shirts and things, but what does that really mean? So I want to start with looking at the word matters. When we talk about things that matters, we generally talk about things that are important. What's important to you? Why is it important? What happens? And I found this quote, a very obscure quote by a very obscure person to talk about Black music, but I'm an obscure teacher. And it's from Red Fox, the comedian, who said that music played a large role in the survival of Black people in America. That and a sense of humor just couldn't be enslaved. One of the things we have been taught traditionally in school about enslaved people, Black Americans, is that we are musical. We love music. We can all make music. But the music that we made was not just about entertainment. It has always been about our sense of survival. It has also been about our sense of communication. So understanding that it was important to us on many different levels, in many different ways, is an important issue. And we look at curriculums, things are beginning to change with that. Why? Well, matters also mean issues going on with Black music. And Black music in education is an interesting intersection of a lot of different things. The intersectionality of learning, of assessment, of spaces, of teaching, of not being offensive, but we also want to be culturally relative, but we don't want to upset anyone with what we're singing and how we're doing it. One of the things I have noticed over the past few years is that spirituals in our textbooks have been moved to the category of American folk music. Why? Because therefore we don't have to talk about the history of spirituals. We don't have to talk about the background, where they came from, who wrote them. And they were composed. They were simply not transcribed through European methodology. And that, when we look at it in a textbook, you can see the little Black dots, as I call them, on the page, and we think, oh, isn't this great? Without giving credit to the people and the cultures that don't use the little Black dots as being musicians. That is a matter, that is an issue that comes in with learning about Black music and supporting Black musicians. Even today, if we look at our curriculum, and we're talking about a curriculum fair, when we look at assessments, we assess students who can still read your traditional European notation. If we have brilliant musicians who play by ear, they don't get those same great grades because there's no place in many curriculums that will allow them to be assessed on that. The performance part of it, although intersectionality, this is what we see. We put them on stage, we put kids out there and say, okay, let's perform, but then we're assessing them by a different methodology. So when we talk about Black music matters, it definitely has that double thing. It matters because it's important, but there are many, many, many issues that are contained within the world of teaching Black music. And then there's the quote from former President Obama, and going from Red Fox to Obama sort of typifies me, about change. We have to do it. Changing curriculum I started out, let me say, I consider myself an education artivist. When I started teaching music, I was in DCPS. In DCPS at that time, there was no real curriculum. So people were doing whatever they wanted, however they wanted, whenever they wanted. But then they decided to evaluate the teachers. And the people who were evaluating us were using traditional methodology. Well, can your children read the notes? No. Well, can your children do this? No. But my children were doing performances on the Harlem Renaissance. They were learning all of these things, connecting to curriculum, going through, singing, dancing, doing that. But that's not important. That was not important. So why am I saying that with the change? Because I couldn't wait for the people downtown to change. I had to change what we were doing. We had to change in the classroom. I was lucky at that point because I was the only music teacher. So I didn't have to deal really with anybody else. I'm now working in Alexandria where I am working with other people. It's a smaller system and the curriculum is different. The curriculum, whereas people are saying, oh, we want to change, we want to be inclusive and diverse, but not too inclusive and not too diverse. So again, change can't wait for somebody else to do it. We have to make the changes that we want right now in our classroom. So what are we going to do about that? I'm so glad you asked. There are a few of us, and I think we could, I don't know how many, we could do small breakout rooms or do a chat together. Let's just chat. What is Black music? When we talk about Black music, what does that mean? If somebody just wants to unmute and tell us what you think that means when you say it.
This is Jessica. I'll jump in. This is a really loaded question because at one point I would have said it's music written and or performed by Black people. But as I study hip hop, for example, the industry, increasingly Black music is also music that's written, performed, owned, and controlled by Black people. Regrettably, most of hip hop is neither consumed nor created in terms of like who controls the industry, Black people. So.
Good, thank you, exactly. Anybody else?
I would say too that I think Black music is all music because I really think that all musical genres originated from the African sounds, and I think that's like a component that's really missed. It's funny that like European methodology is really promoted in music when really a lot of those standards were actually originated from African music. So I think it's a little bit of all music because that's what's beautiful about it, is that it's music is an evolution that includes what came before it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to share. I'm not feeling the best, so I won't come on camera. But I think that Black music is expression. And I think that that shows up in many different genres, whether you're talking about classical, you're talking about hip hop, talking about jazz. I think expression is really important in Black music. It's not just about being perfect or being, I guess, complete. There's also the expression component, the feeling. How does it feel? How does it translate to other people? What resonates with you? I think all of that is what I guess almost sets Black music apart. There's a feeling that you just get a lot of times when you hear it that you may not feel or understand, and you may not be able to put it to words, but I think that that's what makes Black music so unique and so important to the world.
Thank you. The teacher wait time. Okay. If you have one, just come on in. Don't worry. The deep conversations about what the terminology means has to be our starting place. When we look at curriculum, what are we actually talking about? We have to be willing, ready, and able to have these deep conversations with the right people. And the right people are everyone. We are all the right people with our colleagues inside and outside of our disciplines. One of the things that happens is that we look at music in isolation as entertainment. And that's where people put us when it is so much more. It is so much more. It is science, it is math, it is history. All of these things come to be when we talk about music. When we look at Black music, and we have these examples, you guys are already there, it's all of these things. You cannot find any genre where you will not find the fingerprints of Africans in America. The influence is everywhere. And that needs to be highlighted and celebrated across the curriculum. That these things do not exist in isolation. Our students are listening to a very limited, in my experience, let me not speak for everyone, amount of music. And they are only exposed to certain things. So Black music, oh, it's hip hop. Black music is hip hop, it's rap. Like, really? That's it? Yeah. No. I remember being in college 100 years ago, and I was at Howard, and Dr. Norris, our choral director, said to us, quite, he was upset, let's put it that way, about jazz. And he told us, he said, you all have given it away. This was our music, and you have abandoned it. You have given it away. You have disrespected it. And now people all over the world are picking it up, transcribing it, and taking it as their own. And that never left me, because I started looking at other genres of music where we have left our mark and left it. We have abandoned it. If you are singing country, suddenly it's beginning to open up a little bit. But country music is not, that's not for Black people. We don't do that. We do disco, old school, rap, go-go, R&B, maybe soul, if we're gonna call it old school. But classical, no. Rock, no. So being, anybody, I'm sorry, was somebody wanting to say something? Okay. Ooh, let me go back, I went too far. So I start with this season, we know we go throughout, and we could have a whole other discussion about this, but just looking at the Nutcracker. And Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker is something that is traditionally performed either for ballets all across the city especially, and I'm sure throughout the country, by Tchaikovsky. One of the things I like to do is a comparison and contrast with Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker and Ellington's Nutcracker Suite. Now, I also do this because I have a perverse sense of not only highlighting people of color during February, that we don't wait until February and jazz in April, which is Jazz Appreciation Month, to talk about Duke Ellington. So I do bring him out purposely in December, right alongside Tchaikovsky, because Ellington did do a Nutcracker Suite, a jazz version, and it's just a little overview of some of the things. He did change some of the names, but you can see the very same things that we hear with the traditional Nutcracker, but with a different flair, a different flavor. Ellington and the great Billy Strayhorn. it's time for you to do a little participating. Now, the good news is that we are on Zoom. So if you are not comfortable with singing, that's okay, because we don't necessarily, we will not be singing together on camera. But I do want you to try to sing along with the march from the Nutcracker, because what I did was I took the march, the melody, just gave it new words and pulled this into a lesson. So for those of you who need the quick review of what it sounds like, because you've heard it. Da, 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 da. Sorry, I didn't warm up. That's what I put to the march. And so after the students listened to the traditional one by Tchaikovsky, then we put the verbal, because Tchaikovsky's version is a ballet and there are no lyrics. So I want to see you at least pretending to participate. That's the Zoom world of Duke Ellington wrote a new version. Ready? 1, 2, ready, and Duke Ellington wrote a new version. His orchestra played it and had fun. The rhythms were quite different than the ballet by Tchaikovsky, and the melodies were classical, but they were also jazz. So, what are you doing? Then have them evaluate, because we're talking about curriculum. And these are ways, as you can tell, I like to get very sneaky with my curriculum. So when someone comes in and says, but you didn't teach this, oh, yes, I did. And are you doing cross-curricular? Yes, I am, because we're analyzing this. Who is the person? It's Duke Ellington. What did he do? He wrote a new version of the Nutcracker. Well, what type of instruments did he use? He had an orchestra. Were the rhythms the same? Were they classical? Who was the original one? Tchaikovsky. You're asking questions. You're pulling out genres, classical, jazz. They're doing comparison contrast. If you want to do the great big Venn diagrams, putting them side by side. Putting these things in there, does it mean looking at the curriculum in a different way? Yeah, a little bit. But it will also, in the long term, help your students. With that said, we're going to move on to this one. My favorite, Orff instruments.
All the stars
For
were there.
anyone who has been lucky enough to have the wonderful
The
Orff
brightest star of all
instruments
was pulled out audience to talk
in
with
their
Duke.
room.
Only Irving Townsend said what the band leader wanted.
I think some, oh, there we go. That Orff instruments are wonderful instruments. There is a whole, it is actually an approach to teaching music. It is not just the instruments. And that's one of the other problems that I have with it, but we'll get into that in a second. Appreciation, appropriation, or theft. My kids love it when I say we're going to talk about a crime.
Ready? 915.
When I start presenting that as we're going to talk about a theft. And they're like, what? Before we start playing the instruments, because I want them to know where this comes from, what we're talking about. So the Orff, just a brief on Orff, Orff instruments and the Orff approach to music came about with a German composer, educator, Karl Orff, who traveled to Ghana. And when he went to Ghana, now this was a classically trained musician. When he went to Ghana, he became fascinated by the fact that little children with no teacher, with no adult, were playing on these xylophones and making up songs and picking up things and changing, doing complex rhythms and harmonies and all of these things, and they were doing it on their own. He took that idea of that xylophone, brought it back to Germany, put it into production with another friend of his, Keatman, And they developed a whole approach that this was new. In fact, their philosophy states experience first, then intellectualize, which is completely different than most European philosophies of music. But interestingly enough, teachers will get these Orff instrument sets, which are incredibly expensive, and have their students play them. And people think, wow, isn't this wonderful? But again, we go back to the fact, if we're talking about assessment, oh, but then they still have to be able to read the notes, which is in contrast to what he actually saw in Ghana. So I have them look at the two instruments, where the similarities been, again, with diagrams, looking at them. What are the similarities? What are the differences? What do you see? What do you don't see? Is it an appreciation or is it a theft? Did he give them credit for what they were doing? Now, I have to say and tell on myself about the philosophy of teaching Orff, that there, as I said, there is a whole system about teaching Orff. There are levels that you have to go through to be certified to teach it. And my first Orff class, I was floored. I couldn't get it. And I was ready to quit. I was really ready to quit. And I happened to have a friend in class with me, and he kept looking at me, and literally he got tired of me whining and looked at me and said, "When did you stop being a Black Baptist?" And I was taken aback by this statement. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm talking about playing this instrument. I'm talking about this philosophy. And he looked at me and said, the only thing they did was take what we have been doing in church for hundreds of years and write it down and get paid and not give us credit. And as soon as he said that, it began to click. This is all that was happening. But no one was saying that to my students. No one was appreciating what they already knew. When many students come into music, they have to do what I call a musical code switch. We want them to leave what they know outside of the classroom. Because of course, what we know is more important. What we know is better for them. And we don't give them the ability to share with us or even appreciate what they know and what they bring into the classroom. Now, I will not say that across the board, because you're about to see something that is very rare and I didn't even know existed till about 2 weeks ago. There are people around the world, interestingly enough, and this takes off into our civics and social studies, how a prophet is not appreciated at home. Around the world, musicians of color have always been appreciated. They have looked at America, we look at it fully as entertainment. They look at it as, wow, the complexity, as I said earlier about the jazz. They're saying, wow, let's do this, let's figure it out, let's make this work, we're gonna study this, we're gonna do this. And I'm about to show you something. Please understand the time period when this happened, because there's a word that some people might be upset by, excuse me. But I think it's important to see that on the cover of Jet magazine, we have cover girl Yoko Ono. The Beatles, Yoko Ono, acknowledged how Black musicians, and on this one it's Black stars and the other one is Negroes, changed their lives. The influences, the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, many of the people who came over from the European invasion, so to speak, acknowledge the influence of Black. Elton John acknowledges the influence of musicians of color and how it changed how they heard things, how it influenced. The interesting thing, as we all know, about music coming back and being paid to other people that had gotten it from us. They took it. So it goes back to appreciation, appropriation, or theft. What interesting titles if we had some writing to do. Jobs, and let's be real, most in Virginia, one of the things they have been trying to do is eliminate some of the general music courses and put in a career component that we need to start putting them towards careers. So I was working with a group with the Virginia Education Association and said, I'm sorry, there are careers in music. And the response was, well, we know, but most of them won't be performers. And I said, and that's what I'm saying. There are other careers that come about in music. So we started talking about bloggers and just music writers and arrangers and producers and lawyers, et cetera. And so for right now, we still have general music. We're crossing our fingers that it will keep going with the new administration. But this is important to look at how these influences have affected not just our society and the differences, back to compares and contrast, the differences in what happened in our society and how musicians were treated versus how the music is respected and appreciated in other cultures. I'm going to take, I think, checking time. Ooh, running out of time. I'm not going to show this one because I want to do something more fun and interactive. But when we talk about DC's music scene, that could be a whole thing by itself, the influence of music in the DMV. And this is a clip from NPR, I believe, about the comeback of the Howard Theater. And it has a history of the Howard Theater, a great clip for, I would say, even fourth grade and up, to look at the geography, how things have changed, gentrification in the city. These are issues that I believe students know about from a very early age. They can see their neighborhoods changing. They can talk to people who will tell you what it used to be like versus what it is now. So that's a clip for that. But I want to go on to this one, which is a Jep party. Now, you cannot legally say Jeopardy because they will get you. But we can have a Jep party about music in the DMV. And this all goes across with different questions and everything. The templates are available online, so I'm not giving anybody a big template. You can make it as large, as small, as big, as little, whatever you want to do. Whether you want to use this template, that's up to you. I have used this small one with my younger students. Sometimes they're my guinea pigs. I try everything out with them before I present it to adults to see if we could do it this way. So get ready. You are about to play DMV Jet Party. You will pick a category and a prize. No money, sorry. You're going to pick a prize. So 200 born in DC. These are all musicians that were born in Washington, DC. Where in the city when we talk about geography? Addresses are listed and you have to say what is. And the last one, a duke, a prince, or a godfather. Duke Ellington, we all know, is known as Duke. His name is Edward but he's known as Duke. A prince. Marvin Gaye was the Prince of Motown. Or a godfather, godfather of go-go, Chuck Brown. So all of the questions, that category will be one of those three. Who is Duke Ellington? Who is Marvin Gaye? Who is Chuck Brown? And born in the USA, born in DC is who is. And you will tell me who it is. So let's start with, I will start and then you will pick up after that. So I want you to engage and play because I'm tired of listening to myself. 200, born in DC. The clue is jazz, 1899. Who has the answer?
What is Duke Ellington?
Yes, very good. Pick the next category.
Hey, can I do go for 200?
Which one?
Oh wait, I'm looking at this screen, correct?
Oh, look at the second screen.
Second screen.
This one, born in DC, where in the city? It just has three
Oh,
categories.
okay, got you. Okay, a Duke, a Prince, or a Godfather for
Okay.
400.
All right, graduated from Dunbar High School.
Ooh. I know it's not Duke Ellington. What is Marvin Gaye?
No, sorry.
Oh, it's
It
Chuck
was
Brown.
Duke Ellington.
Or what?
Yes.
Oh, the
It
history
was.
I have says he went to Armstrong.
They actually, he graduated
From Dunbar.
Dunbar. He graduated from Dunbar. Someone else want to take a shot? Thank you, Ms. Jones. Someone else. Oh, come on. All right, I'll pick a place. 600, where in the city? What is located at 529 Bryant Place?
What quadrant?
Oh, I should have put the quadrant in. You are right.
If it's
I think it's northwest.
northeast.
Maybe it's northeast. I had to think. Let me check real fast.
Oh, you know.
So the person was born in DC.
No. This is where, what location. There's something special located at 5. That one is all about places. Where in the city? What place is located at 529? It's something important that is located related to Black music.
Yeah, do you know what quadrant?
I'm checking right now.
I think it's northwest. I think I know the answer. I think it's northwest.
Let's see if the list. Yes, it is northwest.
Okay, yeah, I think somebody put something in the chat similar to it. I would guess.
What is your guess? Think about Black music in DC.
What is the Howard University School of Music? That's in the chat. That's what I would have guessed.
The HUR. That's where HUR is located.
Oh, HUR. Okay.
HUR is located. So yeah, we would go with that. And then I want to go with the last one in the interest of time. Is 800 a Duke, a Prince, or a Godfather? Who won a National Heritage Fellowship from the National Endowment of the Arts? Anyone want to try a Duke, a Prince, or a Godfather?
I would assume that I would have guessed Chuck Brown.
Very good. That's exactly right. It was Chuck Brown. And that is one of the tricky ones. So there are different things that you can put in there that to arrange for any age level for what they are studying. And I do apologize. I've been out of DC for a long time, so I haven't even think about quadrants anymore. Northwest, north. The minute you said that, I was like, oh wow, you're right. I could have been in Southeast. I could have been here, but I don't even think about that. That's what happens when you get out here in Virginia. So that is the way for the JEP party to go. And I have to, because I'm in Virginia, I have to give my shout out to my fellow colleague in ACPS, which became a huge thing with our students because they only see us in one light. That you don't go to the bathroom, you don't sleep, you don't have a life. And they had been walking around looking and saying, well, wait a minute, what are they talking about? Sugar Bear, who is that? What is that? Blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, we have this famous clip, which I want to make sure I show because I still think this is hysterical.
I'm going to Glenn Close on this one. The icon. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Because you told him he was too young for the Donna Summer song.
Well, he was.
I'm a child. I think we got something. I don't know. Questlove, just play it. Let me see. Here we go. I said, come here, big girl. Rock my world. So okay, you guys stop. That's not fair to Glenn Close. She don't know nothing about
No,
doing
wait a second.
but-
Wait a second. Wait a second. I know that's da butt. That is da butt. I know that. Da butt was. Wait a second. It was a classic song by the great Washington D.C. go-go band EU. So yeah, and shout outs to Sugar Bear and the backyard band and the whole DMV. So anyway, so wait, no, I remember this. So Spike Lee, had it written for his brilliant movie School Days, and my friends at the Oscars missed it, and it wasn't nominated, so it couldn't have won, which I think is.
All right. Now, you can find that online and see the rest of that. But that goes to speak to the fact, I wanted to put that part in there where she said they got it wrong. We have had music that should have been nominated and won awards for years. Every once in a while, someone will say, oh, this was great. But it has only been recently, it has only been a rarity that has happened. But again, we have had musicians. Quincy Jones was composing for music for movies in the 50s and 60s. You can go back to In the Heat of the Night. We have had composers doing these things. This goes back to why Black music matters and issues that we don't discuss in Black music, where our students only get the ideas. And yes, I was there at the beginning when EU was in the backyard band. That's how old I am. But so I appreciate that. But many people still think that this is when it started. It is up to us to make sure that we highlight the history. So I want to end up with this. One of my other favorite things is poetry, and giving students the opportunity to show what they know with a poetry slam, and writing a bio poem about a musician. One of the ways to do a bio poem is first name, hails from, graduate of, known for, fun fact, last name. You can change up the factors, what you want to put in there. Famous songs, different things. If you're doing the genre that they do, whatever you wanted to do. But I definitely wanted to end with this one because it is a recent addition to and tribute to one of Washington's most influential unsung musical heroes, Melvin, who hailed from Washington, D.C. He graduated from Wilson and Howard. He is known for being the originator of the Quiet Storm format, which is now across the nation. Almost every state, if not city, in urban America has a Quiet Storm format. And just in 2021, he was inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame. So using Black music matters can bring you into cross-curricular activities. It can expand your music curriculum. It can expand what you're doing in your classroom. One last activity that you can use, body percussion. Again, when they walk in and say, well, what are they doing and why are you teaching this? Sir Duke by Stevie Wonder has numerous names in there: Basie, Miller, Satchmo, Sir Duke. Who are these people? Asking your students to find out, to investigate, do a bio poem on who are the people who are listed in Sir Duke. But you're also getting them engaged with the body percussion from the beginning, and they are able to do that. Black music matters. If you want to get in touch with me, if you want to talk more, I appreciate your time. I thank you very much for being here. Have a fabulous rest of your afternoon. Vanessa, somewhere that I think you guys have something to do. Yes.
Oh, I've been dropping the evaluation link into the chat. So if y'all could do that, that'd be wonderful. But also, if you feel so inclined, I would love for anybody to come off mute and give our thanks to Dr. Smith, who did a wonderful job. Thank you.
Dr. Smith.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Appreciate y'all.
I appreciate it. Have a great one. Have a great season. Get some rest.
Dr.
I
Smith,
know everybody's earned it.
We'll keep the Zoom room open for any questions, thoughts that you all
Any
have.
questions? I'm gonna throw tomatoes. It won't hit this far, so.
Requests.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, Dr. Smith, that I really enjoyed your presentation. I feel like a lot of what you shared are like things that I think and I feel as a Black educator. And it's an interesting space to navigate, you know, especially like the pieces about like performing before learning, you know, to read music and things like that. And just the way like a lot of Black art forms are not considered as comparable to, you know, other music or artistic art forms. So I just appreciated you, you know, just sharing your honesty and your experience and just giving a voice, you know, to the experience that many of us, you know, have